So what do you do when you hear not so good news and you are miles away from the situation? Somebody dear to you passes away. Welcome to this episode of Healed or Hurting with Leke-Aladekoba. And with me, I have my dear brother. Well, we call ourselves cousins, but you know how it is now. Deji Oyeyola in the house. Okay, so a backstory before Deji introduces himself. So Deji and I grew up together. So you know how you grew up, same church, we were in same house fellowship. So of course our parents were close, like we're all close family-wise. And again, Deji went to the same university with my husband. So they are part of the people that they did when they were asking questions. You want to marry this person? They went to go ask. Anyway, so let's backtrack to why we're here. So thank you, Deji, for joining us on this episode. And we're just here to talk about, something that happened in 2019. And but before we do that, just want to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do. Okay.
No, okay. Thank you so much for having me on your platform. I appreciate it. So my name is Deji Oyeyola. I'm a data management consultant, married with a daughter. I'm the third child of four kids. Yes.
Yes, so that's Deji, guys. So now 2019, so I'll give you a backstory. 2019, we went home. Deji didn't go home. We went home to visit our parents, and we saw family. So growing up in the same house fellowship, Deji's parents and my parents were very vital to our lives and to our growth. So now come 2019, we get a call, or I get a call. Deji's dad has passed. I was frozen, but we're here to find out how Deji, first of all, heard the news, how we processed it, and we're just going to talk about how we process when we have grief or loss of somebody very close to us. So Deji, how did you hear the news first?
So on that particular day, I was at work, and as you know, my dad was already diagnosed of lymphoma, and he was already receiving treatment here and back in Nigeria as well. And he was doing really great,
He was, yeah.
And then he went back home because he had, things to take care of. And some of my colleagues were aware that my dad was sick, especially, my clique at work. And so that particular day, I was heading to the coffee room at work, and I got a FaceTime call from your sister. And Titi doesn't call me that early. When Titi calls me on FaceTime, it's usually weekends or in the evening just to talk about politics and a bunch of other, shenanigans. And she called and she was like, Deji, have you heard? And I'm like, heard what? She's like, oh, no, it's okay. That, I just called to check on you. It's been a while. I'm like,
you're already suspecting.
So she's like, you know what? I'll talk to you later. And then she hung up, and I'm like, something like this is not good. Like, first of all, Titi doesn't call me that early, and Titi doesn't call me like that. So I'm like, you know what? Let me investigate myself. So I called my brother, and I'm like, Dayo, what's up? And he's like, it's fine. I'm like, Titi just called me now, and it was kind of weird, is everything okay? He's like, yeah, everything is. I'm like, what are you doing? He said that he's going on lunch break.
Well, had Dayo heard by this time?
Of course Dayo had heard.
Okay.
So Dayo said he was going on lunch break, I'm like, okay, no problem. So I looked at the time. He was like saying something. I'm like, lunch break. I'm like, okay, you know what? There's one person I know I will call. She won't lie to me. She will keep it straight with me. So I called Kemi, and I called her on FaceTime. So I called Kemi on FaceTime, and Kemi, I saw her face, she was crying, and I'm like, what's going on? She's like, you haven't heard? And I'm like, heard what? She's like, we lost Daddy. At that point in time, I was already done getting coffee, so I was heading back. Now, turns out that Dayo was already making plans, on how they would give me the information. He had called my friend Abiola. You know Abiola?
Yes.
So I called, because Abiola's office is right next to mine. So I had called Abiola. Abiola had told my boss and told my clique at work.
But they hadn't told you?
They hadn't told
me. Okay.
So Then, during the whole process of me being in the coffee room, they had told my boss. And so while I was heading back to my office, that's when my boss, she was trying to find me. Okay, so she saw me, and then I was already crying, like I busted into tears. So my boss just hugged me, and then she took me to our own office, and then I was just, in tears. And then some of my other colleagues came, so my boss was like, she should just take me home. So at that point in time, Diary made arrangement with Teye. So Teye came to my office, and then we drove home together. Throughout the ride home, we were both just, crying. And then we go home. I didn't know if they had made plans, because at that time, if you remember, my wife was heavy of Tiara then. So we didn't know whether to get her out of the house, or there was really no plan. I didn't know how Dio didn't cover that angle. And then we got to my place, and then the moment my wife saw me crying as I was walking into here crying, she knew, so she just fell down. I'm telling you, she fell down. So everybody went out
trying to load her,
because she was like heavy.
Yes.
So, and then we sat her down, and we're all just, crying. And then Dayo came, and I called my mom, called my sister, just asking, more questions, how it happened, So that's the short gist of, how I found out and how I reacted.
Okay. So, I mean, for you, you hadn't seen Daddy since when he went back to Nigeria. I mean, we saw him, I think, in February. We had seen him in February when we went home. And so, being away, that far away, hearing that news, like how, I mean, you had the shock, but going days after that, how did you process? What was going through your mind?
It was devastating. And it was really, really tough, because he was good when he went back. Like he was really good. He was in great shape. And when he went back, he took one chemo after he got back to Nigeria. And after that chemo, he reacted really bad to it. And I remember during Tiara's baby shower, we were on the phone together, and he was really down when I was talking to him, talking about he doesn't like the way he feels. And I was downplaying what he was complaining about. Because I'm like, Daddy, like this is not your first time of taking chemo. Like, how it feels. So you should be used to it by now and not get worried or concerned about how you're feeling, That don't worry about it. Just give it, a few days, weeks. I'm sure you'll be back to your usual self. And that's the part that really, really, that still kills me today, that I wish I had even, listened, maybe even talk more, empathize with him when I was feeling, because it's kind of unfair when someone is complaining about how they feel and you're downplaying it, And I was so confident that, it was going to be good, but after listening to my mom's transcript on, the days leading to when he passed, our housemaid, my sister, it was then I realized that it was like he knew, how your body's feeling you, and you just can't tell things are not getting any better. So if I wish I didn't downplay what he was telling me about, and I just, we just, talk about it like, okay, So that's those are part of the things I really,
So do you still beat yourself over that?
Absolutely. Sometimes I ask myself, no, I'm of the opinion that if he had stayed, maybe he would have, lasted maybe another, who knows? Because it was good.
It was good, yes.
I just felt like the chemo in Nigeria, not that I'm saying, that's what caused it, but, you start asking questions. What if, if he didn't take that chemo, who knows? Let's say he took the chemo here. I'm sure if when he was feeling, the way he was feeling, maybe he would have been bedridden at the hospital here, buying more time. So that's one thing that I and my siblings and my mom, we still, sometimes talk about, like, what if, or if he had stayed, like whatever business you're going to handle in Nigeria, you have capable hands that can make it work, but I felt like he was bored. You know how it is with
being over here, yes.
They just don't have as much to do when they're here compared to when they're home in Nigeria. So, yes.
So, I mean, I know, of course, at the time, you couldn't go home for the burial at the time.
Yeah.
How did you feel your siblings went. How did you feel not being able to be there?
It killed me. Still kills me today. Because Tiara came, like maybe a few days before the funeral. So, and my mother-in-law was in the UK, with my brother-in-law and his family, and so they were not around. And I couldn't just leave my wife and a few days old baby to come to Nigeria. So that part really, I couldn't, I didn't see him. I couldn't even pay my last respect. I couldn't even be with, with extended family, just be there for each other. I was just here with my wife and my little baby. So it was really hard for me. I was always on FaceTime with them, trying to keep tabs of, how things were going, even during the funeral, everything I was watching it live, But it's still nothing compared to being there physically and just, going through the pain, there. I eventually went to Nigeria, visited the grave, but it's...
We'll get to there. That one was just, we'll get there. We'll get there. So, because of course you were not there. So I know, of course, the family has always been close. We growing up and the family has always close. But would you say that when that incident happened, how did that help you guys bond? Would you say that it made you guys bond more closer?
Oh, yes. It really... It's so it really it made us closer on a whole new level. The way we were raised, my dad tries to keep tabs on everything going on with each and every one of us from day one. In the morning he calls on the landline at home, in the evening he calls and you have to be home. So that glue, all of a sudden was gone. The difference for us was because he got diagnosed, and usually when people get diagnosed of cancer, you just know it's TikTok. You're hoping they're able to, stay a decade, as long as you can have them around. And so we were somewhat prepared for it, but still, not...
No matter how prepared you are, it's still the loss of someone.
And all of a sudden, that guy, that always had us on, on check. That guy that we can always bank on. My dad well.
I know, yes.
My dad is not that I'm trying to, switch the attention to him. My dad he's a stand-up man. He's, nothing catches him off guard. We've always had someone to rely on, As a guy, I talk with my dad about everything, like he makes sure I'm okay. I can always rely on him. I certain conversations that a lot of my friends can't have with my dad. I always call him. There was this one time I was working midnight shift, at Oracle, and he would call me just to, make sure I'm awake, still on the phone with me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how, that's my dad for you. So all of a sudden to just have that guy that you can always rely on, that always has your back in all area, just poof.
So there's a void that's...
Major void. So the only way we could fill that void is to try and, be together as a family and just be there for each other because he's gone.
So in essence, we'll say that the family support... So for you now, so was family support a key? a key area in helping you get past through like that void that has been.
Family support was everything. It was everything. First, I want to appreciate my wife. You know, she was strong. You know, she was strong for me. She was always checking on me, because there are times whereby, you know, I'm in the shower and I'm just crying, and then she just walks in, you know, or so many random situations like that, and she came through for me that period. And of course family too, you know, my siblings, my mom, and then they're close friends, family friends I consider family, like your family, for example. Now, you know, everybody knows I call you my cousin. You know, Titi was really there for us, you know, always checking on us, making sure we're okay, and so many. But to answer your question, family was what helped us to stay strong, and it's still helping us to stay strong.
Okay. So I have a question for you. I know you try to say that you're not very religious, or well, you're not religious, but so, because when growing up now, your dad was like one of the pillars, I would say, in church. So was one of the people, especially in our house fellowship, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, for me, when things like that happen, I want to question God. Like, why would someone who that I know that loved you so much, why did this person have to die? Or why couldn't this person get healed, for example? Did you have thoughts like that? Did you?
I did.